I'm going to stick with questions from the audience from here on because I like them. I like these. I like this one. This is from Sia from Brookfield, Wisconsin. Do you think LeBron is as big a Cowboy fan as you are? Sia, seriously? I mean, are we talking about LeBron, the Rams fan, now that he lives out here in LA? Or are we talking about LeBron, who sometimes loved the Cleveland Browns when he played for the Cavaliers, especially after the Browns won an occasional game? Then he's a big Browns fan. Grew up, obviously, in Akron. We talking about that LeBron, or LeBron who sometimes professes to be a lifelong Cowboy fan? I don't know which one we're talking about, but LeBron drives more different bandwagons than my man LaShannon Sharp drives on Undisputed. LeBron front runs, sometimes with my Cowboys. He front runs while I back walk, as in I repeatedly have to walk back my Cowboy predictions when they let me down, as they often have of late, or at least since 1995, not that long, but you know what I'm talking about. I am lifelong. I am diehard. I am true metallic blue to the core. And I'm going to assume that LeBron, like so many Cowboy fans I've met around the country when we've done our show remotely, from New York to out here in LA, I'm going to assume, and by the way, the Cowboys are America's team. I don't care what you say. They're actually the world's team because they are the most valuable franchise in the world. But when I ask somebody in LA or New York, how did you become a Cowboy fan? I almost always get this answer of, it's usually during the dynasty years, which would be obviously 92, 3, 4, and 5. I always hear, well, when I was a kid growing up, I started watching them on TV, sometimes because my dad was watching them on TV, but I started watching them on TV and I love the uniforms. I always hear that. I just love the uniforms. I love the color. I love the stars on the helmet. The uniforms got me. It's really not the team as much as the uniform. Sometimes it's the personalities. It's Aikman, Emmett, Michael. But if you think about LeBron, those dynastic years, 92, 3, 4, 5, he was age 7 to age 11. So I'm assuming, and I've never asked him about this, but I'm assuming he got stars in his eyes from those stars on the side of the helmets. Heck, I go so far back, I remember when the stars were on the shoulder pads. But my experience was completely, utterly different. My uncle, named Jim Bell, was a high school coach in Dallas, Texas during my childhood years, and he invited me to a Cowboy game as I was growing up in Oklahoma City as a huge fan of the St. Louis Cardinals baseball and football teams. Remember, once upon a time, St. Louis had a football team called the Cardinals that are now the Arizona Cardinals, still run and operated by the Bidwell family. So all I knew were the St. Louis football Cardinals because that was the only game back in the early days of television. That was the only game that we got every Sunday on TV was St. Louis Cardinals football. So I wanted to go see a game at the old Cotton Bowl in Dallas featuring my St. Louis Cardinals football team against the upstart fledgling expansion Dallas Cowboys. And finally, I was in 4th grade, age 10. I finally talked my parents one weekend in the fall, driving me down to see my Uncle Jim Bell, who took me by himself to a game out at the Cotton Bowl. These were the bad old days, expansion Cowboys. And my Cardinals won that game easily. I think it was 34-24. And yet there was just something about the Dallas Cowboys because there was something to me about Dallas. Oklahoma City wanted to be Dallas. Dallas was just a bigger Oklahoma City. I think it's the same to this day. And all of a sudden I wanted to be part of Dallas because it's much closer than St. Louis, and it's much closer in culture to Oklahoma City than St. Louis. And so all of a sudden I started to think, I kind of like these underdog Cowboys. I guess I like the uniform, stars on the shoulder pads, but they had a little sawed-off quarterback. I think he was about 5'7", named Eddie LeBaron, and I just liked his style. I liked his chutzpah. I liked his guts and his gumption and the way he fought. And all of a sudden, I found myself starting to love the Dallas Cowboys. And then through the 60s, they became year after year next year's champion. And I fell hard, and I got hooked. And when I went off to school at Vanderbilt, I actually took with me a Dallas Cowboy trash can that I had in my dorm room all 4 years at Vanderbilt. A trash can. Wonder what Sigmund Freud would do with that. A Dallas Cowboy trash can. What was I thinking subliminally? That's a deep thought, but you can see where my head was already going. So, no, see it, there is no way that LeBron James is anywhere near as big a Cowboy fan as I am. And all you need to know is that I live in LA and I do not like the Los Angeles Rams. Thank you. End of story. I hope you enjoyed that video. You ready for more? Make sure you click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from the Skip Bayless Show. And don't forget to check out the full episode of the show wherever you get your podcasts by clicking the link in the description.